Hey Pipe Pals, this is the Pipe Pound here. I'm gonna do a video about Jay's pass on his skill. So I myself am a supply teacher, which I think in America is known as a substitute teacher. And sometimes, here you go. Sometimes you show up and the lesson that the teacher left you just doesn't quite cover the time remaining. So if you ever have a group of kids or young teens that you have to entertain, what I did was I learned a fable, and I got this fable from a collection by Indres Shah, I think you pronounce his name is, Indressshah, and he's a Sufi master who collected a bunch of fables, and I found one and remembered it. So this one is, I don't know what it's called, but it starts, once upon a time there was a young girl who was walking down a rocky path at dusk, and coming bounding towards her was a giant ogre. And this, so if you want to like do the actions for them, you can do the walking around and stuff. So this ogre comes flying towards her, and she's thinking, oh no, my legs are too short to run away from this big guy. What am I going to do? So she quickly comes up with a plan, and she stands her ground. So the ogre starts running up to her. That's enough. And says, he's puzzled all of a sudden. He runs up and stops and says, little girl, why didn't you run away from me? You should be terrified. And she said, well, why would I be scared of you? I'm much stronger than you. And he said, stronger than me? Ha! I'd like to see you prove it. So the girl, who has a shoulder bag on with her lunch in it, crouches down, pretends to pick up a rock, and palms an egg. She says, I'm so strong I can squeeze water out of this stone. So then the girl gives a big show of squeezing it, and then the ogre sees liquid flowing out, which in the twilight looks like water. So she passes the stone, passes a stone to the ogre. The ogre gives it a shot, gives it all its strength, and frustration throws it on the ground. So next, the ogre says, I didn't quite believe you. Let me see that again. So she says, okay, well I can get salt from a stone. So same thing, she bends down, palms some salt out of her bag, squeezes, makes a big show of putting a good effort into it. The ogre tastes it. Alright, you try it now, ogre. And then he tries again, gives it his all. In frustration, he throws the rock down on the ground. So the ogre's thinking, well, this girl could be valuable. He says, let's go back to my cave and I'll get us some dinner. You can get us the water for dinner. So the girl, who couldn't think of a way to decline his offer, falls into the cave. So when she goes into the cave, she sees the remnants of brave warriors who fall into this ogre. There's shields and muskets and swords strewn about. So the ogre picks up his giant wine flask and says, here, you fill that with water, and I'm gonna go hunt for dinner. So he barges out, rolls a rock in front of the door, and the girl's thinking, what am I gonna do, what am I gonna do? She can't even pick up the wine flask, it's so large. So among the debris, she finds a shovel. There's a stream way, way, way back in the cave. So she starts digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. So instead of lifting the wine flask, she dug the stream to run up to the ogre. So the ogre comes back and says, why didn't you bring this here? And she thought, well, I thought it would be much more convenient for you to have the stream over here. So, after having dodged that bullet, the ogre says, okay, let's have dinner. So they eat, they go to bed, and in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, the little girl hears this, and this is where you can get a yardstick and beat it on the desk, because the kids love that. So anyways, you go, boom, 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 3 huge bombs. The girl wakes up in the morning, and the ogre is surprised to see her still alive. And the girl said she didn't trust him, so she set up her covers to look like she was lying in the bed that he had left her in. And she went and snuck off into a dark corner of the cave. And she heard the attack in the middle of the night. The ogre had hit her 3 times with all his might. And the girl said, "Oh, the mosquitoes were bad in here. I got 3 bites last night." So the ogre was so scared, he throws up his arms and he runs off into the distance. And he's running and he's running, and the girl says, "Phew, I'm finally free of that ogre." Until she sees the ogre coming up to the fox. And we all know the fox is the sly one in fables. So he comes up to the fox and she sees him stop and she sees them have a conversation. And she thinks the fox is going to blow his cover. That's it. The jig is up. So she sees the fox and the ogre come running towards her. She's thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? She looks around, finds the rifle that's still loaded. She brings it up to her eyes, she pulls the trigger. She shoots the fox right between the eyes. The ogre is shocked. He keeps running up and he's saying, "Why did you shoot that fox?" And the girl said, "I told that fox to bring me 2 ogres, and I already own you. I wanted him to bring me another one." And the ogre was so scared he ran away, and the girl went to her escape. So that's the fable. There's a lot of things you can do with that. If you want to stretch for time, you could talk about the origin of fables, the purpose of them, any fables that the kids already know. And then after the story is done, you can have, depending on their age group, if they're younger, you can have them draw their favorite part of the story. They can draw, if they're a little bit older, they can draw maybe 5 years from now if they meet again. Or if they're older than that, they can write stories about those topics. Or they can write a story if they met like 10 years in the future. So this is my skill, knowing a fable to entertain kids. I hope that's somewhat useful. Thanks, Jay, for the idea. I find all these videos very helpful. I'll talk to you later. Bye.